So our message today is called You'll Never Believe It. And you'll never believe why it's called that. It's called that because Maureen, in her ever beautiful job of manufacturing the majority of our written material, our newsletter and our Keep Me sheets and all that, said, okay, I've waited long enough. Nice lady, what's your talk title next week? And I said, I don't know. We'll call it You'll Never Believe It. And I'm sure I'll think of a talk to go with that title. Not usually the way it happens, but that's how it happened this time. And so I took this phrase into prayer and meditation. You'll never believe it. What would they never believe? And I was thinking the talk was going to be like 3 amazing things you never knew about science of mind. And instead what showed up is how often I am sitting, usually in the office, with a congregant who is saying, you say we receive as we believe. You being science of mind. And maybe actually me. I say that. I do say that. But I don't believe yet. So how am I going to receive anything if I don't believe? I mean, everything you're saying sounds lovely, but like at the bottom of my soul, I'm like, maybe, I don't know. So I keep waiting to start this thing that you call spiritual practice until it means something to me. But that isn't happening. Help, I'm stuck in this circle of I don't believe, so I don't practice, so I don't believe, so I don't practice. And I'm willing to bet almost all of us have sat in that space at one time or another. That it seems like a really good idea. Science of mind sounds like a really good idea, doesn't it? And then sometimes you're like, but is it? But does it really work that way? And if you have been one of those people, I want you to just take a nice deep breath, knowing you are not the only one. You are not the only one. And sometimes it makes a lot of sense when life is going really well and then life takes a turn into the sketchy. And suddenly, maybe it doesn't mean anything at all. We are human, and we live in this completely mysterious world of never really knowing for sure. So how do we walk a teaching like this out if we haven't drunk the metaphorical Kool-Aid? And here's the secret. We don't want you to drink the Kool-Aid. We don't want you to just believe because some lady, this one or any other, or some man stood up here and told you to, or some man named Ernest Holmes wrote a bunch of books. That kind of belief, that kind of completely blind belief isn't faith. It's delusion. How can we make meaning be anchored in something real? Such a good question. So good, I wrote a talk about it. So the first thing I would say if somebody says, how do I get to believe in a way that is meaningful? The first thing I would say is belief is a choice. I think that we tend to think that belief is something that is done to us. Like we do all the right things and then one day the universe says, they have earned belief. And then this beautiful, sparkly golden light comes over us. And in my imagination, it feels like when Vernice Reyes prays, just comes down over us. And then, I believe. And then I receive from my belief, and everything is easy forever. Wouldn't that be neat? It doesn't work like that. If it does work like that for you, please come tell me about it because I would like a piece of that. Somewhere along the line, some brilliant person, I don't remember who, said to me, we'll never know for sure until we die. And then another friend, Maureen, was like, and we don't even know for sure if we know then because none of us remember being there. We'll never know for sure, for sure, for sure, for sure, for sure. And if we are waiting to live as if this teaching is true until we know for sure, we will never get there. Because there is no such thing as knowing for sure. I've often joked, and I'll do it again, I am waiting for Jesus or Buddha or some other amazing avatar of history, some master teacher of history to show up in physical form and say to me, Leslie, it is like this. That's what knowing for sure would mean to me. And I keep inviting them and nobody comes. If we can never know for sure, beyond a shadow of a doubt, would pass a legal argument, and I would say that's true, then what we think is true, we are making it up. That's what the song said. Make it up as you go. Make it up. We are making it up. Everything that we experience is passing through our filter of perception, and we are making up a meaning about it. So why don't we make up a good story? And it's okay to know we're making it up. It's okay to know, okay, I found these writings and I found this teaching, and it feels pretty good on the inside of me when I think, that could be the thing. What if we decided, I'm going with this? I'm just going with this. I may never know if it's accurate or not, but it feels better to live this way on the inside of me. I'm going to make this up. It's okay if you think this sounds a little crazy. But we're doing it all the time. We're doing it all the time. We watch the news and we see this candidate said that about that candidate, and that candidate said this about that candidate, and somebody's going to do the thing to the thing, and oh my God, we're all going to die. Millions of people are going to come streaming over the border and, I don't know, take all the cats, and we'll have to live in a cat-free universe, and no one will cuddle me. And asteroids are going to hit my house, and we are making it up all the time. And when we do, my friends, we are making up terrible stories about what's going to happen. I have a medical test, and my leg's going to fall off. It never has. At least not yet. And if it did, you know what? I'd go right on with my life. They make new ones. I could just pop one on and come back up here. I might limp a little, but hell, I limp now. We're making up stories all the time. The difference between making up a story and living in crisis all the time and making up a story and feeling good is choosing the story. Living in belief isn't something that happens to you. It's something you choose. It's something that you actively decide day by day by day. It's a process of catching yourself in the, oh my God, and the world's going to end. Whoa. I forgot. We're not doing that. We're doing this. There is a universe, there's a power that knows more than I do, and it's going to handle it. Might it be just as made up? Sure. Which feels better? Which feels better? There comes a point when you live as if this is the truth that it starts to feel so certain in your heart that it feels like a true truth. That's a lot of truths, even for me. And that's what I would call knowing for sure. But it doesn't happen unless we choose to live that way for an extended period of time. What if we were the ones in control the whole time? What if deciding to act as if it's true, which would mean leaning into spiritual practice and calling ourselves back when we're diving over the metaphorical disaster edge, what if that is what anchors us in a life that feels better, that makes us better? What if it's all okay? What if it doesn't matter who wins the presidential election for your own personal health and safety? What if? What if the bills are going to get paid? What if it's all going to work out? Doesn't that feel so much better than the other what ifs? We decide that. We, each of us, independently in our own human little brains, get to decide that. And we decide it by choosing thought by thought and bringing it back to the positive story. The second step is watching what you worship. Once you've chosen what you want, we want to watch what we worship. And we can let that slide go. Thank you, loves. Worship is a tricky word. If you're triggered, go ahead, take a breath. It's an old school, traditional, dare I say, churchy kind of word. But when we take it back to the original meaning of that word, it just means to pay attention. It means the activity of giving our full attention to something. That's what worshiping really is, which is a little bit terrifying when I look at my Netflix queue. There's not a lot of science of mind content on my Netflix queue, friends. So the definition of worship leads to what in the Sacred Days work, which is like the fear to faith stuff, the living my life purpose stuff, what they call the law of worship, which is what we worship, we become. What we worship, we attract. Boy, that sounds an awful lot like it is done unto you as you believe, doesn't it? Because what we pay attention to becomes anchored in what we believe. And unfortunately, humans, I was going to try to come up with some like percentage or some, but people tend to worship what they don't want. I know, it's crazy. But think about it. How much of your attention do you pay to what you are afraid will happen? Let yourself think about it. If we become what we pay attention to, is it any question why we are so easily pulled into the panic, into the distress? The key is to refuse to worship what we don't want, because problems last as long as we pay attention to them. I have a little story about that. When I was a little kid, I was terrified at night. I had probably what we would now call night terrors about the monsters under my bed. And I can so viscerally remember laying on the bed. It was my yellow bedroom, so I was like 7, laying on my bed, and I could feel the monsters under the bed. I could feel them. They were coming for me. I could swear I felt the bed move. They were coming for me. They were coming for me. And I was just a little kid, and I didn't have any solutions for monsters under the bed, and they were going to overtake me, and they were going to pull me under the bed, and they were going to eat me up. And I would get so, like, terror in my little body. And what would I do? I would gather up all my little energy. Took a while, because little. All my little energy, and when I was very, very bravest, I would jump off my bed and run, and jump on my parents' bed, because that's where it was safe. The instant I hit my parents' bed, I was safe. But then the next day would come, and the next night would come, and the monsters were still there. I could feel them. I could feel them moving the bed, and the hands were going to come up, and so I'd gather all my energy, and I would run, and jump on my parents' bed. The day came, I don't know when, but a day came when I didn't wake up because of the monsters. And I didn't need to run to my parents' room anymore and jump on that bed. Because the monsters were never there. If I'd been brave enough at 7 to look under that comforter and peek, I could have seen there were no monsters. But they were so real for me because we live in this universe of perception of our mind. And what we believe is real for us. Now, this is true if we're talking about an imaginary problem, a perceived problem like a monster, right? And this lives in the realm of things like people say about me, people think about me, people will know about me, blank. And I don't want them to feel, say, think, fill in the blank. That's a monster under the bed. We can't know that. It can come in the form of what we think might happen if whatever they're yelling about on the news today comes true. That's an imaginary problem. We are buying into that it will affect our personal lives. And then there are the problems that are real. Diagnoses, bank account numbers, job status, relationship status. That's a real problem. It's not just a monster under the bed. But the way we work through it is. We all have the opportunity to be for something and against nothing, which is a famous Ernest Holmes quote, which means rather than focus on the part that is bad, negative, harmful, hurtful, upsetting, to turn and focus on what's my next best step here. What's my best solution? What's my best perception to move in the direction that will make my life better? I could have looked under the bed. What could you do to make that perceived disaster less painful, or maybe even disappear? So we choose to believe, we choose to step into acting as if. We watch what we worship. And the final one is turning it over. I wish I'd been brave enough at 7 to look under that bed and see that there wasn't a monster, but I was not. And there's no shame in that. We're at where we're at in the moment we're at. What made me able to go back to sleep was running and jumping where? On my parents' bed. I found a place that made me feel safe. I guess I could still do that. I could drive over after service to my parents' house and jump on their bed. But somewhere along the line, when I was 32, and I wandered into this place, I found that there was a place of safety, a place of support, a place that could catch me, that was with me all the time. When I started acting as if, I found that when I turned the scary things over to the divine at the center of my own being, whether I could know for sure if it was there or not, when I turned it over to that place of divinity, I felt better. Life got calmer. And when that happens enough times, do you know what happens, friends? The belief anchors. But I had to choose it. I had to decide, I want to feel like the universe has my back. And the only way to know that is to turn it over and to see what happens. Robert Adams has a beautiful quote that I feel really speaks to this. He says, "There's something within you that knows what to do. There's a power greater than you that knows how to take care of you without your help. All you've got to do is surrender to it. Surrender your thoughts, your mind, your ego to the current that knows the way. It will take care of you. It will take care of you better than you can ever imagine." I have a favorite practice that I do. And if you've worked with me in almost any way, you've probably done it before. And I'm going to invite anyone who wishes to close their eyes or soften their gaze and to allow to come to mind something that is a monster under the bed for you right now. Something that is plaguing your heart and your soul. And then allow to come up for you the image or the felt presence of a beautiful garden with an altar in the center. And see a light shining down from the sky, right, like a beam focused right on the top of that altar. And allow yourself to know that that is the light of divine truth. And it is brighter and stronger than anything you've ever perceived. And I invite you to energetically reach inside of you and grab a hold of that monster and to place it on the altar. And watch as the light of divine truth dissolves away that fiction. Now you may notice with the next intake of breath, the monster's back in your tummy again. Take it out again. Put it on the altar. Watch the light dissolve it away. You can do it as many times as you need. But notice that feeling of relief as it's gone, even if the relief only lasts for a second. Knowing that this garden, this altar, this light is always within you, I invite you to just let the image of it fade away and bring your awareness back into the physical space. It is that simple. You don't have to be able to physically go to that garden and that altar and that light to know that the relief you felt was real. And you can do it anytime you want. It's a choice. We decide, we act. And then we get the evidence of the good, the relief, the peace, the resolution. This is what living science of mind is for me today. And I invite you to do it with me. In closing, I have a quote from our own Ernest Holmes, the founder of this philosophy. He said, "We must believe in the inherent goodness and all-powerfulness of spirit. We must let every path lead us back to the point where we realize the inner presence of the great reality. There, through the door of our own thought, we enter into the universal consciousness, into a complete realization of life and truth, of love and beauty." The invitation is to choose. And so it is. Let's anchor this in some prayer. How good it is to breathe into the knowingness that life is right where we are. To celebrate the power of the imagination, of consciousness, of our own minds. And to feel that sense of relief when we explore the idea that Spirit has got us right where we are. How good it is to rest knowing that whatever is on our heart, our mind, we can turn it over to an infinite consciousness. That we are supported, we are held, we are loved exactly as we are, without needing to be any different. And so I just speak a word knowing exactly that whatever is on the hearts and the minds and the consciousness of every beloved within the sound of my voice, that sweet Spirit is working on that right now already. And that there is more than enough good of every nature to support us all. I'm grateful, grateful, grateful. Grateful for the action of this teaching in my life. Grateful for the one. And I call it all good. And so it is.